If you're still charging by the hour for music lessons, you're actually losing money and you're working harder for less. The worst part is you're probably attracting the wrong students, ones who cancel at the last minute, they stop showing up, or they never even fully commit. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to stop selling your time and start selling results, which is the key to charging higher rates and attracting students who actually show up and stay committed to their lessons. And stick around because later I'll also share the biggest mental shift that allowed me to go from low paying hourly lessons to a six-figure coaching model and how you can do the same. So let's jump in. So what are the problems with hourly pricing? Well, the first big one is that it misaligns the incentives of you and the student. Have you ever had a student that you've been working with and they're improving, but then they quit sooner than expected? Well, it's not really your fault. Often it can be the pricing model working against you. And what happens is it actually creates a conflict of interest between the teacher and the student. Because if you think about it, if a student learns faster and they get better results quicker, you're technically making less money. And that's a broken system. And the other bad thing it can do is you can end up trying to fill up the hour, right? Which is just like a waste of everyone's time. Because if you're charging like, okay, I need to fill the 60 minutes, then you end up putting a bunch of useless stuff in there. And the craziest part is most students don't actually want this. They want something completely different. And I'll explain exactly what in a second. The second problem is cancellations, all right? Cancellations just kill your income. How often have you had a student cancel last minute and you've thought, well, you know, there's an hour of my time that's gone that I can never get back. This is where hourly rates really fall apart. If a student cancels, you're either forced to charge a cancellation fee, which is super awkward for everyone involved, or you just completely lose that income. It's also the worst when you get a message that's like, hey, I haven't really had time to practice this week. Can we push back our lesson? You're just left in a situation like hoping that they show up next week, which is super unstable, especially if you only have a handful of students. The third major problem is you're selling time instead of results. Here's something to think about. How do students actually choose a teacher? Imagine you're a student looking for lessons and you see two different options. One option is $60 per lesson or per hour. The second option is, I'll help you confidently play 5 beginner level songs in 1 month for $200. Which one of those sounds more appealing? This is what most music teachers get wrong. They think that students are buying time, but they're not. They're buying the ability to be more confident on their instrument. So before I tell you some better pricing models, I'll tell you quickly like why I personally stopped charging hourly. So a few years back, I just moved to London. I had like $2,000 in my bank after quitting a few years on cruise ships. I was teaching in a small music school, basically scraping by, and then the pandemic happened. And, like a lot of musicians, I lost all my work, all my gigs, and my job. Now, I remember looking at my calendar and I had like 25 days to get my rent together, right? I was going back to Australia. Now, luckily, I'd already started working with a business mentor, which turned out to be one of the best decisions I actually ever made. So instead of scrambling to find students, I had a plan. And with his help, what I did, I actually built a coaching program. So instead of charging by the hour, at first, I didn't believe that anyone would pay high ticket prices for music lessons. I was convinced that the hourly rate was the way to go. But my first program that I had, I was charging $1,000, and that felt insane. But at the peak of my business, I was charging twice that. And it completely shattered my reality of what's actually possible to earn coaching drums. I would never go back to an hourly pricing structure ever again. By the way, my name's Jacob Evans. I'm a professional drummer living in London, and I built a 6-figure online teaching business, and now I'm helping other musicians have more freedom in their career through online teaching. So if hourly pricing is so flawed, what should you do instead? Well, there are better models that give you a more stable income, attract more serious students, and make your lessons more valuable, which you can apply right now. Let me break them down for you. So the first option is package pricing. This is the most beginner-friendly sort of approach. If you're absolutely married to the idea of charging by the hour, at the very least, do it in packages of at least 5 to 10 lessons at once. Would you rather pay $60 per lesson with no clear roadmap, or invest $200 to confidently play 5 full songs in 1 month, which is like the example from before? Which of those feels like a better deal? That's why outcome-based pricing works. And a common question that I get is like, But what if someone doesn't want to commit to a whole package up front? Well, that's easy. You're going to have to demonstrate your value first, usually through a free lesson, which you would do anyway, or you can offer a free video, a PDF resource, or a short consultation to show them exactly how you can help them. The second structure is a monthly membership model, and this is a great option for getting longer term, more committed students. Charging a flat monthly rate that includes lessons and some resources and also a bit of ongoing support in between. So for example, you could charge $300 per month. This includes one lesson per week, practice materials, and personalized feedback. With this model as well, cancellations don't really matter because students are paying for access to your program and not individual lessons. So the cancellations just become reschedules. The third option is premium coaching. This is like a high income strategy. And this is what I did, right? So I created a longer program, a 3-month coaching program that was really focused on a transformation rather than like individual lessons. So for example, my program was I'll help you develop effortless flow on the drums in 3 months. It's a $1,500 investment. Premium pricing attracts committed students and ensures that you get paid well for your expertise. Obviously, you have to be confident that you're able to deliver the result in the time frame. If you're serious about growing your teaching income, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on future videos. Why are these models better for both you and your students? When you charge more, you actually become a better teacher. And there's a reason the saying, those who pay attention rings true. Higher rates create leverage for both the student and the teacher, which leads to more effective and rewarding learning experiences on both sides. For the student, a financial commitment raises the stakes. So when someone invests like a meaningful amount of money, they don't want to waste it. So they usually show up consistently and they put in the work and they stay engaged in the process. Compare that to students paying for kind of casual hourly lessons. They're more likely to cancel and skip practice and drop out entirely because there's not really any cost to doing so. For the teacher, charging more really forces you to level up. When you're being paid well, you feel a responsibility to deliver results and to really help your students progress. This naturally pushes you to refine your teaching methods and create more structured and valuable lessons, and stay more engaged with each student's journey. I remember when I launched my coaching program, I would literally lay in bed at night, like thinking about, how I could get my students better and making sure that they're practicing. And it's just, I thought about it all the time. And the higher price wasn't just about making more money. It pushed me to become a better teacher. And I started refining my curriculum, improving how I explain my concepts and making sure that every lesson had clear outcomes that actually helped my students progress. With any of these pricing models, you shift your focus from constantly replacing students who quit to retaining serious, committed learners, which not only makes teaching more fulfilling, but also makes your income more stable. Now, you might think, I can't charge that or I'll lose my students. Look, if the idea of charging more for lessons makes you uncomfortable, you're definitely not alone. A lot of musicians feel like they can't raise their prices because they basically think no one will pay. Or worse, they worry that they'll lose students if they do. But here's the truth, okay? The market always has options for different budgets, right? There's always going to be teachers charging $20 an hour, and there's always going to be teachers charging $200 an hour. So what's the difference? The ones who charge more, they understand their value and position themselves accordingly. Now, the other thing is, if you are teaching and you want to raise your rates and you're worried that you're going to lose some students, you probably will, okay? But think about it like this, right? If tomorrow you doubled your rate and half of your students quit, now you're working half the time and you're making the same amount of money. Some might stay, some students might leave, but the ones who stay, they'll be more committed, they'll be more engaged, and they'll be willing to invest in their progress. Think about it. When was the last time that you truly valued something that was cheap? When students invest more, they take their learning seriously. And when you charge more, you naturally deliver a better experience. It's a win-win. So in summary, stop charging by the hour, align your pricing with student results and not time. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me maybe one of the struggles that you're having about pricing your music lessons. Let's talk about it.